Oh no. Are you okay? I'll have another ginger nut then, shall I?
Yeah, why not?
In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, and cups of coffee. Ready?
Ready? Anyway, should we get on with it? Hello and welcome to Uphill From Here.
This is Catherine.
And this is Amy. And we're back. After our little break, after our 10th episode, we're back.
Had a little week off and it's been nice to just chill and just take a breather, plan what the hell we're doing next.
Yeah.
So Catherine, what is our word of the week this week?
Our word of the week is happiness. So we're going to be looking at our opinions of happiness, but we've also heard from you guys on what you consider to be your version of happiness.
Yeah, I want to go to those first. I want to read what everyone responded with because it's so nice that people are still engaging over on the Instagram.
Yeah.
So should we just get straight into those?
Yes. Okay. Happiness to me is non-stop laughter.
Something that needs concise decisions behind it to maintain it and make it happen.
Peace, self-love, sufficient amount of money to take care of myself and my family.
Happiness is feeling fulfilled.
Happiness is a mix of things: traveling, spending time with loved ones, and working on exciting projects.
Feeling content with what you have.
Coming to terms with your reality and making the best of it.
Feeling settled and successful. What one did you most resonate with out of the ones that people sent in?
I think I really resonated with the one of like happiness is the one that takes concise decisions.
Did you?
And like,
I thought that would
yeah.
Did you write that?
Yeah, because like I think you can get happiness from the kind of normal everyday things of, you know, like you can get happiness from seeing something beautiful in nature and all those kinds of things, but I think like happiness for like lifelong is about concise planning and sort of knowing what you want to do as a job and, you know, having that little bit of a plan of like where you would like to be, like having a goal.
Yeah, because then you can kind of measure it. I think you're that kind of person that you like to like measure, like, although happiness can't really be measured on any scale, but like,
yeah,
you like to know like this is something that will make me happy and you've considered it.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, and I think that's really nice. Which one did you resonate with?
It's so personal, isn't it? Like everyone's idea of happiness is so different. I like the one about peace and self-love. Like I like the idea of peace bringing happiness. Peace kind of to me means like acceptance and just letting things be, which is more my kind of vibe. But if someone said to you like, what does happiness look like to you? Like, what is happiness to you?
Food.
Is that for me or you?
If it's like superficial things that aren't like connected to deep and meaningful relationships, then it's like food, music, and like baths.
Oh yeah, little things like that.
Yeah, they're like the little like the little capsules of happiness that you can put into like a day.
I like that. Little sprinkle.
Little sprinkle.
It's nice,
you know, like
things.
Yeah.
Because you can revert back to those. Like if ever you're like, oh, today wasn't a great day, you can just sprinkle a little. You know that you can make yourself a nice meal or snack. Listen to your favorite album. Jump in a bath, and that's just going to add a little bit of happy. Just that little moment. That's really nice. I like that. My dogs. The dogs in general make me so
absolutely.
There's nothing better. Like even when I can maybe like go home and I can be in a rubbish mood or I'm crying, whenever I see my dogs, they do this little dance when I get home, because I normally like away for a long period of time, they do this little dance at the door, and it's like a little tippy tappy dance because they're just so excited to see you, and that brings me so much joy. Just that unconditional love.
Happy taps. Happy taps.
Happy little tip taps.
Right.
Who's first?
I don't know.
So,
okay.
Catherine's written, to happiness. How do we measure you? Is there a scale? Do we measure you in comparison to others? If so, can you ever truly know whether others are happy, or are we projecting our ideas and ideals of you onto them? What makes me happy is not the same for all others around me. To me, happiness is all relative. My personal happiness may not appear as such to others. Some people are at their happiest when they're alone, whereas for others, this is their worst nightmare. Some people find happiness in their job. Others find happiness in their personal life. How do I define you? The second definition from dictionary.com describes you as good fortune, pleasure, contentment, joy. To me, all of these things mean the same thing, but are very different. They all equate to you, but I cannot physically feel joy all the time. My whole body would be exhausted. Contentment is a state of happiness that I can feel without having any physical reaction. Pleasure is an emotion that comes under very particular circumstances, through hobbies or a hot bath. Good fortune is something that comes to me. I can orchestrate it, but it cannot be made. They all mean you, happiness, but under different circumstances. When someone asks me, are you happy? It's so much more complicated than laughter or a smile. It's the amazing complexity of being a human. My happiness comes in many forms. All the love from someone attempting to have you every day. I like you've like broken it down into like those different like little keywords that like make you think of like synonymous with happiness. But yeah, I think contentment's a good one. I like that idea.
That's how I measure most times if I'm happy. Like if I'm completely content in the situation that I'm in, then yes, I am happy. Because it's that idea of like, I've got everything that I want. I'm not wanting for anything else. I'm here and this is where I want to be. And it's like, that's fine. No, I was just going to say, it doesn't have to be like that physical feeling all the time.
Yeah, like excitement and happiness are very different. I also like picked up, this is something you spoke about before, about measuring. So like, is there a scale that we measure happiness on? Like how do you actually know if you're happy? Like, because it's a chemical reaction, right? So like, how do we recognize that?
You don't. It's like any emotion. You know, there are surefire signs of every single emotion and every single feeling, but they can't last forever. It's like anger. You know, there's a surefire way of telling that you're angry, but it can't last forever. So you're not always angry. You're not always upset. It's just a state of mind of, okay, I'm maybe less content than I would be most of the time. But it's the same with things like love. It's like you can't have that physical like excitement and butterflies and things every day, because your whole body would just cut out with the amount of emotion it was feeling. So you have to measure these things in a different way, from not necessarily just how you feel about something, but also, you know, your willingness to be a part of it and all those sorts of things.
You mentioned when someone asks you like, are you happy? Like, are you okay? I feel like those can be like loaded questions, and I wonder, like, do you think that sometimes it's just easier to just say yes, that you are?
I think it is easier, but I think it depends on the person that you're with. So it's like if some randomer came up to me and I was having a bad day and they were like, oh my god, are you okay? I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Like, because it's none of their business and I don't want to share that with them. But like, for example, if it's a really close friend or like a parent or my partner or whatever, and they were like, you all right? I'd be like, no, I'm having a really bad day. And I think it depends on who you're opening up to, because, you know, for some people it's like, it's not really any of your business. Or if it's somebody that you don't know overly well, like for example, if it was a work colleague or whatever you're not really close to, and they come in and they go, oh, are you okay? It's kind of like, yes, it is easier to say yes, but also I do think you make that choice to say yes. I do anyway, personally.
Yeah. And like someone asking like, are you happy? Like, I feel like happiness is very fleeting. So like it's difficult to
It
tell at the
is.
moment, like, are you happy? Like, where's the line between happy and content for you?
Like I say, I think it's that like that willingness to kind of be in a certain situation. So it's kind of like, but as well, it's about kind of, you know, you can spend a day with somebody, like we can spend the day together, and I would have had a really good day, but I don't think I could necessarily say for the whole like 24 hours I was completely like happy and overjoyed, but I was content and I was having a nice time.
Yeah. I think happy is that extreme.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. People think that
like you say, it's a fleeting it's a fleeting thing.
you just find it in little moments, don't you? Like that you don't even expect. Like I was just walking down the street with headphones on the other day with my shop,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm so happy right now. And it was just, and then it was gone. I got back, unpacked my shop, and it was gone.
Yeah.
Just let it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned
Yes.
the dictionary definition mentions pleasure. And like you said, that does come from a very specific sort of I'm joking. It's like it is a chemical pleasure is a chemical reaction. Like excitement is,
It
it's
is absolutely
in your brain. Which you know all about. But do you think sometimes this just is what came to my head with that word, which is maybe very telling of me, but like having pleasure perhaps with someone can make you think that you're happy when really it's just that chemical reaction. I know you've got a lot of experience with this from the effect, so I don't know if you wanted to talk about how that can be misleading, especially in like romantic relationships.
I think in very early stages of relationships it can skew that perception. But then I think the further a relationship goes on, I think that pleasure is even more important to keep that level up, because it's that thing of like, you know, it is a chemical reaction, but everything's a chemical reaction. You get angry at a partner, it's a chemical reaction. Like you get angry at a romantic partner, it's exactly the same thing. It's why they say like pain is so close to pleasure, because it's all the same chemicals essentially being released in that surrounding. So like I do agree with you, I do think it can kind of skew that opinion of how you feel about someone initially, but I think it's really, really important when you've established a relationship with somebody to keep that as an integral point in your relationship, as well as, you know, doing all the nice things and going out together, having that like pleasure. And it doesn't even have to be like intimate, just in the case of like being able to sit on the sofa and be close and hold hands and all those sorts of things is what adds to it being a romantic relationship.
Yeah, I just find it so interesting, like the brain science behind emotions. Like the reason you feel that is literally because of a release of a chemical in your brain. It's just so weird, and that those chemicals can be so easily unbalanced and can affect how you feel every day. It's so weird.
Which is why technically you should never really like believe your feelings, because it's all hormones and it's all messed up anyway. So it's like, what can you actually tell from this release of a chemical?
Yeah,
Not
that's
a lot.
kind of weird thinking about it that way. Like I remember crying once because there was no bread for toast because I was just on my period. It's like hormonal. It's like you really can't trust. You just gotta feel them because it's just what's happening inside you, and you can't stop. You can do things to help,
and it's
but
and it's why, like, for instance, when you are in a relationship with somebody or in a friendship with somebody, you can't always judge how you feel about that one person based on how you felt that one day. Because it's like, at some point you might be like, for example, when you're with a friend or whatever and they say, oh, let's go out today, and you go, I really can't be bothered, like I don't want to spend time with anybody, I don't want to spend time with that person, like I'm not in that mood for that energy and to be in that kind of environment today. It's nothing against that friend, that's your body being like, you can't be arsed. But it feels like, oh, why can't I spend time, why don't I want to spend time with this person, like why don't I want to go out with my friend? And it's like, you do, just not today. It's like,
it's important to acknowledge that.
All trying to trick you. It's all trying to trick you all the time. We are told that happiness is a goal. It is where we should aim to be, the ultimate, a destination. But that idea simply fails to recognise the validity of all the other emotions that we as human beings can and will experience on our journey. If all we had was happy, would we be? Think Alec Baldwin's character in Friends. Permanent happiness isn't a realistic goal for genuine human existence, and it is not one I strive for. What I try and hold on to is that no emotion is permanent, all are valid. To feel feelings is not a fatal flaw, but is what makes us human. To acknowledge and respond to each different emotion as we experience them is key to a healthy mindset. Breathing in each as they pass and letting them go, like passing cars in the street or waves on a beach. Often we live with this idea of a binary, happy and sad, good versus bad. But our emotions are a spectrum. We may feel different things at different moments, and it may not always make sense, but each feeling is valid because you feel it. We may feel relief after an agonizing heartbreak, laughter in a moment of devastation, uncomfortable in a state of stability. We should embrace and appreciate happiness, but I don't think we should hide from sadness either. We simply cannot outrun it. We will feel sadness, real sadness, that shakes us to our core and makes us question our beliefs and our purpose. But that sadness too may strengthen us in ways we never knew, bringing with it new growth and a greater appreciation for those happy moments. And that is all they are, moments. Life is a series of moments, of feelings, some happy, some far more than that. Let them go, let them all go. Ooh.
Fucking hell, Amy with the deep shit again.
So like when you mentioned about every feeling is valid, this is going to get really deep, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Yeah. How do you then categorize that, for example, with things like mental health and kind of things like feeling anxiety and the feeling of depression? Because they kind of tell you that everything that you feel isn't real. It's not, that's not you. You don't have to believe in that sensation, in that thought. How have you kind of used that to your advantage with anything to do with kind of mental health, of like, I'm going to let myself feel this, but then I'm going to let it go? Because I thought that was a really interesting concept of like actually letting it go, not allowing it to sit, but like releasing it from you. How has that helped?
Yeah, like I think you need to recognize, I think with mental health, you need to recognize the difference between feeling sad and feeling depressed. Like I think there is like that line, and as someone that's experienced both, I don't necessarily know where that line is, because I don't think you live with depression your whole life, it doesn't go. And it's difficult to sometimes be like, am I just sad this week, or is this some kind of like relapse? Am I getting low again? But it's just important to like recognize those feelings and like, yeah, I'm feeling sad, and like it's so important to note that so that you can kind of respond to it. Obviously I'm in a much better place now, but yeah, it's during that time I felt sad, I felt angry, I felt alone, I felt suicidal, I felt those things. And I think it's important to be able to acknowledge and externalize those things and tell someone, whether that be a friend, family, therapist, a doctor, whoever, to be able to externalize and be like, this is how I feel right now, and that is valid, whether that's caused by an imbalance in your brain or just a set of circumstances that make you feel a bit shit, or something that's wrong inside. Like, you still feel that way.
Yeah. And do you almost think that by acknowledging the small times that you feel sad, like, and it's just sad, it's not depression, allows you to almost like mentally keep an eye on how often you're feeling sad, so that if it equates to majority of the time I'm feeling this way, you can almost like catch it before it gets to the point of it being irreversible?
Absolutely. I think you put it perfectly how I wish I'd said it, because like, yeah, and that's why it's important to like check in with people, like, and check with yourself. Like, it's just as important to be like to your friend, are you doing okay? And just kind of keep track of, oh, they're having a lot of sad days recently, like, do I need to like say something? It's the exact same. You need to keep tabs on yourself and be like, yeah, is this sadness becoming a regular thing? that actually maybe something that I do need to look closer at and take a bit of time for myself. So I think, yeah, it's important in every moment to like acknowledge how you feel and just to accept that. I think the important thing about letting things go for me, that's why I've got like my tattoo, is like you need to realize that this impermanence thing is like a really important belief for me. Like the sad times will not last, whether they are depression sad or just sad, or if you're angry at someone, or even if you're like really happy. It's important to be like, I'm in this right now, which is either good or bad, but it's not going to last forever. It'll pass. Every single thing passes. And like we said about before, it's fleeting. So like just take it for what it is, live with it, live in it, because you can't change it. If you're angry, you're angry. If you're sad, you're sad. If you're happy, like that, like we say, it's in your brain. You can't really control it most of the time. So you've just got to kind of live with it and let it go and not get attached to that. Like, I've always got to be happy, or, oh, I'm really angry and I'm always going to be angry at you, because it will pass.
And I wanted to ask you about, of kind of for you to expand a little bit more on the idea of, you said permanent happiness isn't a realistic goal for human existence. And I really like that as like a statement. And it's like, do you see that the same way as I do, of like, if you felt that all the time, you would exhaust yourself? Or is that something different to you in your kind of way of thinking?
I'm a positive person, but I'm a positive person who gets sad and who gets annoyed and who has bad days. You can be I think this idea that you've got to look things positively all the time, constantly be happy and constantly be laughing, makes you feel like a failure for when you're sad. And being sad is a failure. And I think if you were constantly happy, it just wouldn't be appropriate. Like, life happens.
Yeah.
And I think being sad makes you appreciate the happy times. And
I was just going to say, like you say, if you were constantly happy, you'd never know that you were happy. And I really liked your kind of bit that you wrote about, we live in this idea of the binary, happy and sad, good and bad, and all those kinds of like polar opposites. Do you want to kind of expand on that a little bit, about like not living in the binary?
Yeah, it's not like either or. Like you can find joy when you're grieving, and you can be the happiest in your life and still feel really emotional and upset. And I think having the binary of like happiness is a good thing, sadness is a bad thing. I get that that's people's basic understanding, but I think that's an unhealthy view to have, because then when you are feeling sad, like I said, you feel like a failure and you feel like there's something you have to get out of and something you have to avoid. And feeling guilty for feeling something is like not okay. Like if you're like, oh, I feel sad and I shouldn't feel this way because it's a bad thing, it's like you're denying yourself the ability to feel. And don't apologize for feeling feelings. Don't apologize for feeling feelings. They're there. Let them.
And I suppose, like you say, you find those moments. It's like, why do we cry when we're ridiculously happy? Having that like negative perception of like someone's crying by themselves. Oh my God, I need to go make sure they're okay. It's like, no, I'm just having this moment because this is a moment for me.
Yeah.
I'm great.
It's just a natural human response. It's literally water from your face. And people are like, oh, it's a bad thing. Like I'm an open, I'll cry, like whatever, I'm a crier. It's a human it's a human function. And I think, I don't know, I feel like people need to be like more okay with like, I know it's like really thing me saying this, but like of opening up and being like, yeah, I do feel like this and I do just want to let it out. And I think, yeah, if people are going to take away anything from like this week, it's that every human feels these different things. It's not just you feeling and thinking weird for feeling this. Like, let yourself feel those things and like talk to each other. Like, just tell someone how you're feeling. Let it out. Like, don't like hold all that stuff in.
And I think like one of the things I would say, like, what I want people to take away is, don't compare what you see as your happiness to what other people have got or are happy with. Like, you might be happy like going for walks on the weekends and living in a tiny little terrace house in the middle of nowhere. Somebody else's, it might be like having their dream job and like high flying and earning loads of money. They're complete polar opposites, but it doesn't mean that you're any less happy than they are. It's all entirely relative, so don't ever compare what makes you happy to what makes other people happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we come to the natural ending? So yeah, that brings us to a lovely ending to our first new episode of happiness. Thank you so much for everyone for sending in your responses to happiness. We can't wait to chat to you about future words of the week. Catherine, how can they get in touch if they want to get involved?
You can get in touch via the Instagram. We are at Uphill From Here Podcast, and we're the same on Facebook. Or you can email us uphillfromherepodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We're always still looking for guests. We haven't had a guest on this week because we had lots of responses to the happiness, but we are going to be having special guests again. So if you've missed that little segment, it is going to be coming back, so don't worry. But if you'd like to get involved and be a special guest, then let us know.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
What was I just eating? Nice biscuits.
Sorry, what?
Nice biscuits.
Do you mean nice biscuits?
No, they're called nice biscuits.
They're called nice.
No, they're not.
They're nice. A nice biscuit.
No, because it's Nice, like Nice in France.
What? My whole life's been a lie. What are they called? Are they called like custard cremes and bourbons?